You are live. Welcome to the Shoy Show. It is Saturday, June 20th, 2026. We only get one of these. So 100 years from now, when they look back on what was happening at this period in time, I hope one day someone lands on this video and says, wow, this is what life was like. It was this little dirty thing called the Shoy Show. And he was presenting news like an animal, like an ingrate. But this is what life was like. And what do I care? I'll be dead by then. So you could say whatever you want about me. Isn't that the way it works? Sure it does. All right, let's get to our first topic. Okay? And if you're not ready, buckle up. Because it's coming. Ukraine hits Moscow's oil refinery again. Good. Is that good? Is that actually a good thing? I'm asking you, the audience. Is it good that I'm happy that Ukraine is fighting back successfully against Russia? I'll give you another one. Is it good when I hear that Israel failed at one of their attacks in the region? Is it good that I feel that either Russia or Israel, the enemies of the world, I'm putting enemies up here in air quotes, because who knows what the truth is, but as far as I can see it, when I see that Russia isn't successful in one of their attacks, their campaign against Ukraine, I get happy about that. I say good because I look at them as the bully. Is that right? A lot of people will think that I'm the one that's brainwashed. Is it good when I see that either Israel failed or I hear that some of their soldiers were actually convicted of murder, they were tried for rape, and they're actually going to prison, and I get happy about that? Is that a good thing that I celebrate my fellow man's plight? Now, I think the world rejoices when they hear things like this. Why? Because we all unanimously, almost unanimously, or collectively rather, we agree who the enemy is of our state, of our time. Right now, I would say Israel and Russia are at the top of the list. I want to run something across you. Imagine we, the United States, invaded Iraq, and we did. But imagine after 4 years of war, that is, not only had we not taken the capital of Iraq, but we only controlled 20% of the country. Imagine that after failing to take the country, we had over 1 million dead, wounded, and captured U.S. service members. Imagine that we had lost dozens of naval vessels, 800 aircraft, 12,000 tanks, 20,000 armored vehicles lost in the cause. So much so that our soldiers, US soldiers, were having to ride into battle on e-scooters and mopeds. Imagine we had lost over 10,000 supply trucks. So much so that our soldiers were using donkeys and little Scooby-Doo vans to get supplies to the front lines. Imagine our soldiers drinking from mud puddles because we can't get them water when they need it. Imagine we didn't control the skies. Imagine Iraqi drones and cruise missiles were blowing up all of our oil facilities and other infrastructure. Imagine that so many other nations had sanctioned our economy that inflation was over 20%. Hyperinflation, extreme inflation. That is the state of the war for Russia. Would you believe our president if they told us we were winning that war against Iraq? It's an interesting question, isn't it? Because that's precisely what is happening in the war between Russia and Ukraine. So then I have to ask you the question, why would you believe it when Trump says that Russia is actually winning this war? It's all propaganda at the end of the day, isn't it? Everyone wants you to believe their side, their information. Now, whether you agree with every number in that comment or not, it raises a broader question. How do we decide who is winning a war? Because if you go back to February 2022, which is when this war, this military operation between Russia and Ukraine started, Russia launched what many people thought would be rapid fire, a quick insurgency, if you will, an operation that would last maybe a few days. Many at that point in time in 2022, the expectation was that Kyiv could fall within days or weeks. The Ukrainian government was expected by many observers to collapse. Did that happen? It did not. More than 4 years later, Ukraine still exists as an independent nation. The government is still in power. The military is still fighting. Western support continues. And now Ukrainian drones are striking targets hundreds of miles into Russia. So again, I ask you, who is winning this war? Yeah, that's Russia. On fire. And this was just over the weekend. That is an oil. That is an oil refinery blown up. Am I a good-natured human being? Am I a good person for being happy about this? I'm not happy about this. I actually got the chance to visit Moscow. I don't hate Russian people. I don't hate their entire nation. That is ridiculous. But why am I happy when I see the counterattacks working by Ukraine? It's because I don't agree with what Russia is doing. Do I believe when our government says that Russia is winning this war? How could I? The facts say otherwise. If anything, both are losing. That's what war usually does, right? Who usually loses in most cases? It's the people, isn't it? This is the latest example. Moscow's main oil refinery was blown up. Think about that for a second. This is not a refinery near the border. It's not a refinery in occupied territory. It is in Moscow. It is serving the Moscow region. So let's ask a few questions here. If the United States invaded another country and 4 years later that country was launching drone attacks on refineries near Washington, would Americans consider that a successful war? I would not. I'd be scared out of my mind. What exactly is happening here? Why did we get ourselves involved in this war? Of course, we can only imagine the narrative that Russia is pushing. They scare to death any opposition. They kill their opposition in Russia. But again, if American oil facilities were repeatedly being hit, what would the headlines look like? I think most of us would be saying, why the hell did we get involved with Iraq? And if you said that we have the most powerful military, how on earth is it that we still haven't defeated them? We still haven't claimed victory. Guys, lest we forget, 9/11 happened when? 2001? 9/11. 9/11. What year did we kill Osama bin Laden? We killed Osama bin Laden in 2011. So it took the most powerful military on earth, the United States, it took us 10 years to track down this man and kill him. I'm not only questioning our leaders, but I'm also pointing out the fact that these guys say that we're the strongest. They try to paint whatever narrative. They throw resources at the issue. By the way, our resources, it's our money, it's our tax dollars. They have a pile of our money in Washington that they use for any one of these initiatives. We're giving our governments carte blanche when we elect them. It took us 10 years to track down Osama bin Laden and kill him? Are you kidding me? Doesn't that tell you something about the government? You know what it tells me? It tells me that we're inept. How good are we? How powerful and strategic and clever are we? 10 years to kill this man? He killed over 3,000 in 9/11. Countless others got cancer. Billions of dollars spent on rebuilding the World Trade Center. He harmed the American way of life. He put Americans in check, Osama bin Laden. And it took us 10 years. I'm trying to say, yes, he was a dire threat. And it took us 10 years. Ah, shit. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, hey, government, all of the presidents that we've had for the last 25 years, you said that this was enemy number one. It took us 10 years to track him down. Oh, you don't understand. It wasn't our terrain. They were hiding in mountains. It doesn't matter what it is. You said that we were the most powerful, right? But it took us 10 years to track down and kill him. So yeah, I question when our government says something to the effect of Russia is winning this war. Now again, if American oil facilities were repeatedly being hit, what do you think voters would say? Do you think we'd still want that government in place? At the same time, there's another side to this argument. Russia still controls significant territory inside Ukraine. They have a larger population. They have a larger economy. And they're still fighting and still advancing in some areas. So when some people say Russia is winning, what exactly do they mean? Do they mean Russia is achieving its original goals, which were what? To conquer the entire territory? Do they mean Russia is in a better position to sustain a longer war? Or do they simply mean Russia currently occupies more territory than it did before the invasion? Do you see how the narrative shifts? The first and primary objective that we understood from Vladimir Putin and Russia was that this was a special and small military operation. It would take 3 days to bring Kyiv to their knees and conquer the territory. One person looks at the territory maps and says Russia is winning. They took over 20% of the land. Another person looks at all of the casualties on both sides, equipment losses, sanctions, refinery attacks, and 4 years without capturing Kyiv and says Russia is losing. The reality is, of course, that both sides have paid an enormous price, and neither side has achieved everything that it's wanted. But the refinery story here raises an uncomfortable question. If Ukraine can strike deep inside Russia's capital region, if Russian oil infrastructure is being damaged, if the war is still going on after all this time, then what does victory actually look like? And maybe the even bigger question is, how would we judge this war if it were our country experiencing these same conditions? Wouldn't you say, I would think that most people would say that Russia is losing? Because of course, it's always easier to evaluate somebody else's war other than your own. But if Iraq was attacking Washington right now, again, this scenario matters. If Iraq was attacking our oil refineries right now after 4 years of war, or let's just say Iran, because we're at war with Iran right now. If this was going on for 4 years and they were attacking our oil refineries, who would you say is winning? I definitely could not see any scenario in which the United States was winning. It doesn't mean that we're the weaker of the two. But if you look at things relatively, how much have we lost? How many soldiers have been killed? How much equipment? How much money? Of course, both sides, both governments are going to say the same thing always, in perpetuity. They are going to say, not that they made a mistake, of course, but that they are winning this war. Who has the truth? Who's willing to say the truth? Entirely different question. Did you mess with this? All right, let's get to our next topic. This is insane. Insane. A dog was fatally shot by the Los Angeles Police Department after they responded to an apartment building in Canoga Park, California, where they were called for reports of a screaming woman in an apartment unit. Family members say she was celebrating the New York Knicks NBA championship win when the tragedy occurred. Are you kidding me? You gotta see this footage. It is insane. Now, I'm gonna have to cut it off when they actually shoot the dog, but
oh, can you put your dog away? Put your dog away, please. Put your dog away. Put your dog away.
Put your dog away. Okay, you're scared of the dog. Okay, first of all, you're a police officer. I know you're just a regular human. Yes, put the dog away. Okay. It's a golden doodle. Anybody can see a golden doodle. And like, I would say 9.999% chance the golden doodle is harmless. Those dogs are super friendly. That's like getting mad at a golden retriever.
Fuck. Dude. I ain't getting bit by that, bro.
Do you hear the cops? Damn, jeez, that's a big ass dog. I ain't getting bit by that dog. It's a golden doodle. If it's a German Shepherd, a pit bull, a bigger dog, right? A Belgian Malinois, all right, fine. It's a fucking poodle.
Is the dog put away? Please put it down. It's all good. It's all good. We're not aggressive. Put him in.
All right, here's the thing. So now the dog comes out. He starts barking, right? But it's like, it's like, I gotta blame her too. You gotta put your dog away. You don't want anyone to feel unsafe. So, this is where it ends. Here's her crying. I mean, the dog comes running out. Again, we'll try to just play that really quick.
Put your dog away, please. Put your dog away. Put your dog away. Fuck. Dude. I ain't getting bit by that, bro. Is the dog put away? Please put it down. It's all good. It's all good. We're not aggressive. Put him in.
Okay, there it is right there. I got to pause it there. She says, I'm sorry. He's not aggressive. He's harmless. But again, you just can't blame the cops here. You cannot blame the cops, no matter what. I am totally on the cop side because no matter what, there are some people that are just afraid of dogs. And you got to put your dog away. Like, I do it all the time. Like, I understand. Like, sometimes I have someone coming into my house and they're like, hey, they don't even have to tell me, can you put the dog away? I know that my dog is going to bark at a stranger. So, yes, I feel incredibly sorry for this woman. Like, but you know who I'm really going to blame? We're going to get to that in a second. Let's just hear her crying. Let's see what happened at the scene.
Wow, where's this shit at?
I mean, the dog's dead.
Hey, good job. This is what we pay for. Amazing work, guys.
Oh my God, no.
Good shit.
Oh my God. Seriously?
What the
Fuck?
This is fucking
Are you
pathetic.
serious?
When there's fucking drug dealers, people stabbing each other outside for a fucking dog.
This is absolutely crazy. This is absolutely crazy. We didn't do anything.
So this woman was celebrating the Knicks championship. She was yelling. Now, okay, listen, I gotta ask, like, how much was she yelling? Like, how much was she yelling that her neighbors called the police? Let me tell you guys something right now, okay? Because I'm really gonna get into it on this topic. If you got a problem with your neighbors, go talk to your neighbors. You hear me? You got what I'm saying? Go be a human and go talk to your neighbors. Don't call 311, 411, 911. Be a human. The kids are making too much noise. They're playing a movie or their music too loud. The dog's barking too much. They're yelling a lot. Why don't you go check on your neighbors? Why don't you go talk to your neighbors? Why would you get police involved? Her neighbors called the police because they thought that she was in distress. Why don't you go knock on the door and say, hey, is everything okay? Because you really feel alarmed. No, they got police involved. Police got scared because the dog came out. They killed the dog. This shit happens all the time. It was the same thing with George Floyd. I don't know all of the details. I wasn't there. But at the end of the day, why would you call the police for somebody handing out a fake $20 bill? It's just a fucking fake $20 bill. Get out of here, bro. Get out of here. George Floyd, get out of here. You tried to pass off a fake $20 bill. Get out of here. That's it. Don't do it again. And you know what? Maybe you just don't serve that customer anymore. The next time George Floyd comes in there, you just don't give him anything. If he starts getting violent, starts getting crazy, yeah, you call the police. But why are we calling the police? This is the whole Karen argument, isn't it? Why are we calling the police for virtually every incident that occurs? That is not what the police are there for. They are not there for this. They should be there for violent crimes. That's what you should be calling them for. This woman just lost a member of her family. She lost her fucking dog. That is terrible. And this comes from a dog lover. Like, anybody that has a dog, and everybody understands this, that's a family member. She lost a family member. How loud and raucous could her screaming could have possibly been? Like, to me, it's like, I feel like maybe this was more of a noise complaint. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Such a good dog.
Oh my God.
What the f?
No,
The Calvary for this.
I can't.
Instead of you guys kill the dog with the drug dealers and outside, why don't you shoot those?
The Knicks just won a championship. We were just so happy. We were just celebrating the Knicks.
Instead of getting a piece outside, you kill a
Oh
dog.
God. Oh,
Guys, on top of it all, it's a golden doodle. Like, the police, you got to kind of blame the police a little here. I'm totally on their side, though. I'm totally on their side. Because, and at the end of the day, they're not going to get in trouble for this. That's why they released the footage. Oh, yeah, the police will release the footage right away when they know that they're in the right. I mean, they don't give a shit about public outrage, right? Chances are, if this was like a racial killing or some political controversy, they definitely would not have released the footage. But in this case, they feel like they're in the right, and they are. A dog was charging at them. Done. That's it. They shot, finished. That's how it works. So again, I'm totally on their side. It's fair. But I don't understand why she didn't tie up her dog. Your dog shouldn't come near at all. She should have closed the door. I can't even blame this woman. I mean, like, I'm not trying to even pick a side here, but you definitely cannot blame the cops. There's a lot of things that happen here. Number one, she should have tied up her dog. Put your dog in another room. That's what I always do. Number two, why are the neighbors calling the police? Why are you getting police involved? Why are you getting people with guns involved? Number three, a police officer should know better. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to get bit? You could have kicked the dog or something. You don't have to shoot the dog. And you got to also understand, like, you got to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings, because you just shot a golden doodle. What golden retriever, golden doodle? You know, there are dogs that just are extremely playful and they do not bite. So they got to be a little bit more aware here. Let's try to listen to what the neighbor had to say.
oh my God, my favorite.
This gripping moment now seen across the nation. The story of Marie grieving the death of her golden retriever poodle Mitch Jameson, shot and killed after police arrived to her home off Jordan Avenue in Canoga Park.
He's such a good dog.
Police were called there Saturday evening when a neighbor asked them to do a welfare check after hearing celebrating the new
For what happened?
Why are you crying?
speaking out for the first time.
Why are you crying?
I feel responsible for what happened.
The neighbor says they were walking outside the condo building when they heard Marie's screams. Were hiding their identity because they fear their safety after receiving threats from people online.
Why didn't you go check on your neighbor Marie to see if she was okay?
I was screaming to her balcony for a while. I called several times. I kept going, hello, are you okay?
They said their past experience with domestic violence triggered them to call police to Marie's home.
They were very hostile. They were banging on that door. It sounded like with a baton or something. And they were like, LAPD, answer your door, LAPD. That's not how I thought a wellness check would go.
LAPD says when cops arrived, the dog rushed toward officers and attacked them.
The barking continued after a second, and then 5 gunshots.
All right. You kind of, after hearing what the neighbor had to say, I mean, there were domestic violence issues in the past. She said that she was screaming at her balcony trying to get her attention. She said she called her multiple times. But to me, again, y'all, when did we stop being human? When we got phones? Is that when we stopped being human? Is that like, that's when you just stop being a human being? If you sense something is wrong with your neighbor or another individual, why don't you just go check on them in person? Don't yell for them. Don't call them. Go knock on the door. Like we're talking about, this woman probably had to walk like 20 feet. Go knock on the door and do your own wellness check. If your neighbor has really loud children, knock on the door and say, hey, can you guys just keep the noise down? Just be respectful. I don't understand why we have to get officers with guns involved. Now, the last thing I'll say about this is when you look at this situation, I mean, they drew their guns right away. Why did the officers have their guns drawn right away? I mean, that's pretty crazy to me as well. Like, is there any reason why? Like, why do you have your hand on the guns? Like, is that normal?
Hello. Hi. Oh, can you put your dog away? Put your dog away, please. Put your dog away.
This guy across from him has his hand on the gun. This guy already the one with the body cam, this body cam footage, he has his gun drawn. For what? I mean, yeah, they don't know what's happening behind closed doors, right? This is a distress call, a wellness check. But it's like, man, is everybody just on edge to this extent that you have to kill a golden retriever? Like, what the fuck? A golden doodle? I'm almost positive that this dog would have jumped on him and licked him. And what's the worst that's going to happen? He's going to get bit? It's not a fucking pit bull. It's not a German shepherd or something. Unbelievable. And listen, I mean, I gotta pass some blame on the neighbor. Knock on the door. Unbelievable. All right, let's get into our next topic. I mean, damn. Next topic. All right. Well, 15 years old. Is that too young for sex? When do you think children should start having sex? When do you think that's healthy for their brains, their bodies? I mean, we do bar mitzvahs at 13 years old, bat mitzvahs at 13 years old. We do quinceañeras at 15. We do sweet 16s at 16 years old. When do you think a child should begin to have sex? When they start going through puberty? So like 12, 13, 15 years old? Now, when I say 15 years old, what do you think? Do you think that's too young right away? Bam. What are the first thoughts that enter your head? Because that, I believe, is very important. It's essential to this argument. Is that about right? Personally, before really getting into this topic and some of the research, to me, once you start feeling attracted, as far as like, the other sex, or maybe it's the same sex, whatever it is. But once you start feeling this attraction, I believe you can have sex. I don't know why you would defy the chemistry of an individual, the biological, natural behavior of things. It doesn't mean that we should act on all of our inhibitions, of course, but if a 15-year-old is feeling the urge, the sensation to have sex, male or female, doesn't matter. I think they should be able to have sex. And that's just me, just speaking out here very casually. Of course, it depends on the person, right? There's going to be a whole bunch of factors that come into play here, both internal and external. You may be told that you have to wait until marriage. You may be told that you should wait for the one. You certainly have to deal with the idea that if a woman has many partners, how she's looked at in society. Yes, there's a double standard and all of that, but that's exactly what we're getting to here, right? That's exactly what we're getting at. With men, right? You have to take into account diseases as well. With men as well, right? Them having a lot of sexual partners, yes, it is, glorified, it's praised, especially amongst men, right? It's not the same standard that we hold women to. But again, those are just some of the factors that everybody has to deal with. Should it be after 21? Should it be once you're in a relationship? What should it be with, right? Or what age is the right age to begin to have sex? Should it be during puberty, or should you wait for an older age? Now, this is one of those topics where almost everyone agrees that teenagers are going to think about having sex. But people completely disagree on what should happen next, because there are really two separate conversations here. One conversation is biology. The other is maturity. By 15, most teenagers have already gone through a significant part of puberty. They're developing crushes. They're attracted to people. They're curious about relationships. That's not unusual. That's been happening for thousands of years. That is organic and innate. The harder question is whether a 15-year-old is actually prepared for everything that comes with sex, not just the physical act, but the emotional side, the social side, the consequences that can follow for years later. And that's where things get interesting, because it's at the core of parenting, isn't it? Because if you look around the world, there isn't even universal agreement on the answer. In much of the United States, the age of consent is 16, although some states set it at 17 or 18, depending on circumstances. In Canada, it's generally 16. In Brazil, it's 14 years old. So if societies can't even agree on a single number, then clearly there's more going on here than simple biology. What exactly changes between 15 and 16? A whole lot of puberty, of course. What changes between 16 and 18? Can we actually draw a scientific line? I don't think we can. So at what point does somebody suddenly become mature enough? Those questions don't have easy answers. But before anyone misunderstands the point, the law is the law. Every country sets its own rules, and those rules matter. We must abide by them. But we're talking about the broader question here. How should parents deal with this reality? Because let's be honest, most parents are not actually deciding whether their teenager will ever think about sex. We know they will. Do we do anything about it? Do we have talks with them? But the decision has already been made by nature. They know what they are feeling. Hormones are going to show up whether parents approve of it or not. So then what is the job of the parents? And that really is at the root of this discussion. I don't think pretending that the subject doesn't exist helps. I don't think it's avoiding uncomfortable conversations. And I don't think it's simply saying don't do it and hoping for the best. A lot of teenagers are going to be exposed to information from friends, social media, television, music. And this is going to happen long before the parents ever bring it up. So they're going to decide for themselves. If parents don't become part of the conversation, somebody else will. That doesn't mean becoming your child's best buddy and removing all boundaries. You're still the parent. You're still there to provide guidance, but guidance only works if communication exists. One of the reasons I stayed out of trouble growing up was because my mother was someone I could actually talk to. If something happened, I wasn't terrified of telling her. I knew I could come to her. Imagine how many bad situations could be avoided if more teenagers felt that way. Because when people talk about teenage sex, they often focus on the obvious risks: pregnancy, sexually transmitted infections, making decisions before you're ready. Those are real concerns. But there are other consequences that don't get discussed as much. Teenagers will talk. Schools are rumor factories. One private decision can suddenly become everybody else's business. A reputation can take years to build and 5 minutes to destroy. Then, of course, there's the emotional side. Most people remember their first relationship. Most people remember their first heartbreak. For some people, sex is purely physical. For others, it creates a connection that lasts long after the relationship ends. It's almost symbiotic. That's why I think one of the most important conversations parents can actually have is not about mechanics, it's about judgment. Who are you with? Why are you with them? Do they respect you? Do they actually care about you? Those questions matter whether you're 15 or 50 years old. And here's another angle. When we talk about age, are we actually talking about age? Or are we talking about maturity? Because that should be the primary factor whether we believe a 15-year-old can have sex or not. We've all met teenagers who are surprisingly responsible, and we've all met adults who act like complete idiots. A birthday doesn't magically transform someone into a wise person. At the same time, life experience does matter. Most people would agree that a 15-year-old and a 25-year-old generally see the world very differently. So where should society draw the line? Should the number be 15, 16, 18 years old? The fact that different countries have different answers suggests that nobody has completely solved this question. What I do know is that pretending teenagers don't think about sex has never worked. It didn't work 50 years ago. It doesn't work today. And it probably won't work 50 years from now. The real challenge is figuring out how to prepare young people for decisions they're eventually going to face. Because one day your son or daughter is going to encounter the same issue. When that happens, will they feel comfortable asking for your advice, or would they feel like they have to figure it out alone? And to me, that's the worst of the two scenarios. And that may be the most important question in this entire discussion. It's not if 15, 16, or 18 years old is too young or just old enough. It's whether they have the support system to rely on in sharing what they are feeling, what they are believing at that point in time. All right, next topic. Yeah, January 6th rioters. It's my shit. Because Trump is extremely allegiant. This man, he wants to pay his January 6th coalition, and he's going to find a way, because that's what Trump does. If you love Trump, he loves you. And that's just the way it works, because the Trump administration's proposed $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund was supposed to be dead. House Republicans killed it. A federal judge blocked it. Democrats attacked it. Even acting Attorney General Todd Blanche told Congress the administration was backing away from the idea. But now we're learning something else, that some of Trump's allies are looking for another path. Yes, and don't you think that Trump is excited about that? Of course he is. You can't tell me what to do. I tell you what to do. And you know Donald Trump, good old Donald, he always finds a way to win. So what exactly is he doing? Instead of a giant fund that would distribute money to people claiming they were victims of government weaponization, they're reportedly encouraging individuals to file claims under the Federal Tort Claims Act. Didn't know that existed. A law that allows people to sue the federal government for alleged misconduct. Sounds like another way to me, and it is. Some are also looking at the possibility of using the Congressional Judgment Fund to pay settlements. So, this is just another vehicle to sue the government. Now, let's slow down and think about what that means. The original proposal involved roughly $1.8 billion. The money would have come from a settlement related to Trump's lawsuit over the leak of his tax records. Critics immediately pointed out that some people connected to January 6th could potentially apply for compensation, or anybody that says that the government was essentially weaponized against them. Now, of course, many Trump supporters argued that Americans who were unfairly targeted by the government deserved restitution. So now we're providing restitution, reparations to people who were wronged. Now, of course, the backlash was intense. Federal judges stepped in. One judge has now indefinitely blocked the fund and is demanding written assurances that it will not move forward. Another judge warned the administration not to mislead the court about whether the proposal was actually dead. But you know how ambiguous our administration is. They don't give a damn. They don't follow court orders. They will do as they please, not as they are told to do. Damn be the legal system or not. They do not care. Guess who's in charge? Last time I checked, it was Donald Trump and no one else. So instead of a commission handing out money from a giant pot, allies are now talking about individual claims. That means each person would generally have to make a case, lawyers would have to argue it, government attorneys would have to review it, courts could get involved, some claims might fail, others might settle. It's a much slower and more complicated process than simply creating a fund and distributing money. However, they can still get paid. Now ask yourself, if someone was wrongfully prosecuted, should they be compensated? I think so. What about all of those people that go to jail for 40 years only to be found innocent and get nothing? It happens all the time. I've actually done my research on this. Most Americans would probably say yes, they deserve compensation. But what if the people seeking compensation include January 6 defendants? What if some were convicted? What if others were pardoned? What if they claimed the investigation itself was politically motivated? That's where this becomes a national argument. Trump and his allies have spent years describing investigations against them as lawfare and government weaponization. They view compensation as correcting a wrong. I'm sorry, were these people wronged? Didn't they actually kill officers? Didn't they destroy government property? And now we're going to compensate them? They were there of their own volition. How many times do we thwart protesters today in this current administration? And why? Why on earth does President Donald Trump feel the need to defend these people? Is it because they did right by him? I mean, is this about helping people who were genuinely mistreated by the government? Of course, opponents see it very differently, and in fact, I do myself. Why should taxpayers be paying political allies of a sitting president? They're the ones that attacked and stormed Capitol Hill. It's not like Capitol Hill police attacked them. This was all one-sided. If anything, Capitol Hill police were defending Congress. So now what are we doing? We are rewarding a political movement that remained loyal to Trump. And the courts have already decided. They said no to this fund. Now we're back channeling this. Why? Because that's what Trump and the administration always does, don't they? They always find a way around, a way to circumvent so that they can get what they want out of the government. It's called exploitation. The bigger political question here is, why has this become such a priority? Why keep searching for ways to make these payments after the original fund was blocked? I mean, wasn't there already a referendum on this? We said we don't want it to move forward. Yet this is going to be a much smaller story, and I almost guarantee you that our taxpayer dollars are either going to be spent defending it or settling these cases out of court. How much taxpayer money could ultimately be involved? Who knows? They previously allocated $1.8 billion to this fund. Who deserves compensation? They still haven't said. Maybe they're just standing this up for another reason. To funnel the money out in various ways that we'll never be privy to seeing. $1.8 billion of our money getting allocated to people who destroyed our capital. That's all I see. All right, next topic. Oh shit, we about to get into it over here. Oh, yeah, this what we're gonna do. Let's do it. The reflecting pool fiasco. I love the title.
Used a lot better elsewhere, in a nutshell.
It was a great way to try.
This is rolled out.
No,
That's
but
not
look,
paint.
you can see more of it underneath the water.
That's not paint.
Coating it.
I want my money back after seeing this. I think that it was a huge waste of money to begin with, and I think our resources could be used a lot better elsewhere, in a nutshell.
It was a great way to try and do something about it, but when you're dealing with so much square footage on such a mass, you know, you're going to run into issues like this.
This is rolled out.
No,
That's
but
not
look,
paint.
you can see more of it underneath.
The reflecting pool fiasco. What was once blue is now green. What are we, color discriminating? Now, you might think this is a stupid topic. I do. I think this is an extremely stupid topic. But why are we covering this? I mean, we could really cover this in 5 seconds. Hey, the reflecting pool was blue and now it's green. But then the more you think about it, the more it explains the entire country. Because we're talking about the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool, the iconic reflecting pool in the middle of Washington. Famous Martin Luther King speech, inauguration after inauguration. This is what millions of people have and will visit in the future. This is the pool between the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial, one of the most famous views in the world. And the Trump administration spent more than $14 million to renovate it, repaint it, seal it, and make this the American flag blue color and get it ready ahead of America's 250th birthday on July 4th, 2026. Now, Trump infamously said that this would last 50 to 100 years. It would look beautiful. And it was necessary for our America's 250th movement. Now, within 2 weeks, almost immediately after it was completed, it started churning green. Algae came back. Workers were out there with vacuuming. Workers were out there vacuuming the pool. Workers were out there vacuuming the pool. The blue surface started peeling. People are showing up and taking pictures of the algae like it's a tourist attraction now. You have protesters with Team Algae signs. So now the reflecting pool is not reflecting America's greatness. It's reflecting exactly where we are politically. Because first, people were saying, wait, How did this cost over $14 million? Then people were saying, wait, why is it blue? Why are we doing this again? Then people were saying, why did the algae come back so fast? Then Trump comes out and says, no, this was vandalism. This was sabotage. He says people used chemicals to damage the pool and tried to destroy the work. And listen, vandalism is certainly possible. If someone damaged public property, arrest them. If someone poured chemicals into a national landmark, prosecute them. I'm not defending them for 1 second. But you do realize this is a heavily secured area. I would think a place that is that much policed, with that many cameras around, with that many people, I don't think anybody would dare go into the reflecting pool and start pouring out chemical agents. But that's just me. But here's where the story gets crazy. It's not even what occurred. It's that we can't even agree on what we are looking at. One side says green water and peeling paint and says this was a botched renovation. The other side hears Trump say sabotage and says this was an attack on America. So what is it? I ask you, fellow Americans. Was this sabotage? Or was this a poorly renovated, done job? Or was this a poorly done renovation job? And somewhere in the middle, the basic questions just disappear. What exactly failed here? Was it the cost? Did we spend enough? Did we pay too much? Was it the coating? Was it the water system? Was it the surface preparation? Is this normal algae growth after a refill? Nobody knows. That's not what the experts say, but everybody's starting to doubt the experts. Was there actual chemical damage? Well, now there's an investigation underway, and I would think chances are we're going to know what comes out of this administration. They're going to say that this was sabotage because they don't want to look foolish for spending $14 million on renovating a pool that didn't need any renovation to begin with. Now, of course, those are normal questions. Those are answerable questions. But we don't live in a normal information environment anymore. Now, every physical thing in the country becomes a political test. A pool turns green, and somehow we're arguing about the loyalty, corruption, sabotage, waste, and media. Waste, media, bias, Trump, Biden, contractors, vandals, and the death of the republic. And the ridiculous part is, this is literally a reflecting pool. That's the whole point. It reflects what's around it. And right now, it is reflecting a country where nothing can just be a failed project. We can't just have a maintenance issue. Everything has to instantly become a team sport. If you hate Trump, this is proof he can't even fix a pool. If you love Trump, this is proof his enemies are sabotaging him. And if you're a normal taxpayer, you're sitting there saying, can someone please just explain to me how we spent more than $14 million and ended up with green water and peeling blue stuff after only 2 weeks of the renovation? And that's the part I keep coming back to, because before we even get into the political argument, what happened to basic accountability? You spend public money, the project fails or appears to fail, the public asks questions, the government explains what happened, the contractor explains what happened. We show the evidence and we charge the people responsible. That should not be controversial. But now we skip straight past accountability and go right into the narrative. And this is not even a bridge. It's not some critical piece of infrastructure. Yes, it's a landmark, but it's not a hospital. It's not an airport. It's a shallow pool on the National Mall. And if we can't get a straight answer on the reflecting pool, what are we doing with the trillion-dollar questions? What happens when we talk about war, immigration, the budget, public health, elections? Because this is the small version of the bigger disease. We don't argue from facts to conclusions anymore. We start with the conclusion, then we go shopping for the facts that help our side. That is how America debates today. And that's why this story matters more than it should. Yes, it's kind of funny. It's kind of absurd. It's just a green pool with peeling paint after a very expensive renovation. But it also shows you how broken the basic civic process has become. We are extremely polarized here. A thing happened, an incident occurred. We should be able to ask what happened, who was responsible, what did it cost, and how do we fix it? Instead, we get sabotage, corruption, fake news, Trump derangement syndrome, government waste, and everybody screaming at each other. And meanwhile, the pool is still green. That's America right now. We can spend the money, we can hold the press conference, we can declare victory. We can even argue about the narrative, but at some point, people are still standing there looking at the water, and the water is green. And now we have to wonder if our government is going to step up, do the right thing, and tell the truth. Because almost every single Senate hearing that I ever have seen in my life, it is like pulling teeth to get our leaders to be held to account. Thank you for watching.